Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining Gwinnett County Public Library for our Small Biz Workshop, Understanding Unconscious-Implicit Bias with Nadia Merchant. My name is Miriam Mayer, and I work for GCPL's Adult Programming Department. Before I introduce our presenter, I would like to go over some housekeeping rules for this virtual workshop. Please make sure to mute your microphone. The button is at the bottom of your screen. If you would like to focus your view of only the presenter, you can hover over Nadia's picture and click the pin icon to pin her window to your screen. We will be doing Q&A at the end of the session. Please type your questions into the chat box, which is located at the top right corner of your screen. It is the box with lines. Now I would like to introduce our presenter. Nadia Merchant is a seasoned IT consultant, mediator, trainer, and a conflict coach. She has 30 plus years of experience in human resource management, conflict resolution, training, IT, and organizational development. She has served clients in the US, Canada, and India. Nadia has a dual MBA from Georgia State University in commercial diplomacy and executive business leadership, and Sorbonne Graduate Business School, business organization, and management from Paris, France. She has a bachelor's degree in computer science from York University in Toronto, Canada. Nadia has worked for Capgemini America and IBM as an IT consultant trainer. After 10 years of working with corporate America, Nadia has managed to run two very successful businesses, an IT consulting company and a web design firm. Currently, Nadia successfully runs a consulting, mediation, and training practice, On Point ATL. Nadia operates with high standards of ethics and has served as a chair, workshop chair treasurer for SBA and SCORE Atlanta. She has volunteered for the American Red Cross, Habitat for Humanity, Hands on Atlanta, and the Junior Achievement Program. Please welcome Nadia Merchant.
Thank you very much, Miriam, for that kind introduction. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this session. Since we have a small group of people, I would like to get some kind of an intro in terms of what the expectations are from this session so that I know how to align myself according to your expectation. Because I like to be proactive and just make sure that the time that you're giving to listen to this presentation is worth your while. At the end of the presentation, I would like you to feel that it was worth your while. So if you can just give me like your first name and just your expectation in terms of what would you like to gain from this presentation, that would be helpful. So we can start from Linda.
Okay, so my expectations, I would like to kind of look inward and see what kind of biases I hold and how I can, I guess, be more aware of them and learn to work on that so I can better assist customers at the library and specifically.
Great. I think that's a very good reason to participate. Thank you so much for that. Lennon, would you like to, did I pronounce your name right?
Yes, you pronounced it correctly.
Okay, go ahead, please.
I think that I just add into what Linda said. I know that we all have unconscious bias, even though some of us think that we don't. I think that we all do. That is just a human thing. So I just want to learn how to maybe stop and think when I'm unconsciously doing so. And how can I not only just stop and think, but prevent it from happening more often?
Great. That's a good feedback. I appreciate that. Candace, would you like to add something to it or say something about your expectations?
Well, I really am here because I'm sort of a lifelong learner, and I just feel like I needed to, again, as the other women are saying, become more informed. I taught school for many, many, many years, and probably saw biases repeatedly from all ages, you know, from my first graders to my peers, and myself included. You know, I'm not saying I was out of that group. So it'll just be very interesting, I think, to see, you know, a contemporary take on it.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Karishma, would you like to share your expectations in terms of what would you like to gain from this session?
So a big thing that I'm looking to learn is just how to mold or evolve my own personal implicit bias, like in the workplace. Not jumping to conclusions. That's just something that, like, we obviously don't want to do, but like culturally, like mentally, there's always this mindset that we go into in certain situations or meetings or conversations. So just wanting to learn about, like, really that, what is that truly keeping an open mind? Like, what does that phrase in its true sense in an implicit bias manner really mean? And how can I really embrace that mindset?
Great, great. Thank you so much for that. So before I start the presentation, I want to just qualify it in terms of letting you know that the examples that I will be using could make us a little bit, you know, on the edge kind of a thing. But I think, you know, the reason that we are here is because we are willing to look inward and see what we can do to make things better. And as a result of that better, to the result is that we want a better interaction with whoever it is that we are interacting with. And the outcome that we are looking for is a positive outcome rather than a negative outcome. Because if we have a collective positive outcome, then that is going to help the society or the enterprise or whichever way that we are looking at things. It will give an opportunity for it to grow and go to the next level. So, you know, we are not just squabbling about the basics, you know, that this person didn't acknowledge me or this person said something to me. You know, those are like quite basics in terms of human interaction. And those things, as human beings, I think those should not even be an issue, but it is an issue. So it's gonna definitely, you know, take us to the next level if we take care of the first level, which is, you know, the basic respect and curiosity, and also the ability for us to learn from each other. So again, you know, all these things, if we take care of it, and that can be taken care of by addressing some of our biases, and not just like biases within us, but by biases from the other side. And if both are conscious about, you know, what they are dealing with, then it can certainly be a very positive and a very pleasant experience. And that can also allow us to grow and at the same time enrich ourselves collectively. So I have picked some examples, and I hope it's not too sensitive, but since you are here, I am assuming, which is not something that is one of the techniques that we do, but I am assuming that, you know, we all are thick-skinned and we can handle it. So with that, I'm gonna get started with the first slide, and let me know if you're not able to see it. So at this point, I'm going to go into the presentation mode, which means that you might be able to see me, but I might not be able to see you all. But I will try to make the session interactive. So I'll be switching between slides, you know, between the slides and the video. So I'll be doing that just to make sure that, you know, we are having a good level of interaction. So with that, let me just go ahead and show you my slides. So this is the outline of this presentation. First of all, it is important to learn what is implicit bias. Like, we use it all the time, but do we really know what it is? So we are going to define it, and we are going to try to understand as to what it really is. And then once we have a good idea about implicit bias, what it means, then we will analyze in terms of how it affects our behavior. Because implicit bias, it does have certain characteristics, And I'm going to go more into it in terms of, we are not even aware of it. And we behave, and we don't even know that we are behaving. Now, it all sounds very, very dangerous that, we don't know what we are doing, but it's all happening at the subconscious level, and how that is affecting our behavior. And once we know how that is happening, then we're going to learn some techniques. I'm going to just show you 2 or 3 techniques that we can utilize to minimize our implicit bias, because we cannot eradicate it, or we cannot just X mark it and say, no, my implicit bias is gone. That is not happening. We all have that bias, and whether we like it or not, we all are biased people. So we will learn some techniques to minimize it. And at the end of the 3 segments that I just discussed, we will have some Q&A. And this will allow the users or the participants of this session to have a conversation, and we can have an open conversation. And ultimately, when we leave this presentation, then ultimately, I hope that we all feel enriched, and we all have some action items that we need to take care of. So with that, let's go ahead and try to understand what is bias. So a bias, and this is more like a dictionary definition, is a preference or a prejudice. So there is a level of favoritism involved here in terms of people or a group of people. Now, bias can be, with other things as well, but this session is more focused on people interaction, because people interaction, that is the most important commodity at hand. And the more pleasant that experience we can make, the better the society, the better the business, the better the collective body can be. The other that I was able to pull was, it's an inclination of temperament or outlook, especially a personal and sometimes unreasoned judgment, which we all talk about it, and we refer it to with the term prejudice. So again, this is more like bias is more leaning towards something, a group of people, or one particular person, and you're leaning towards it, and at some point that temperament or that favor towards that person is you don't know, it's unreasoned judgment, or there is no way that you can rationalize it. So again, these are the 2 definitions, and sometimes that favoritism can be unreasoned judgment, we don't know, and quote unquote, that is prejudice. We are being prejudiced if that's what's happening. Now, how are these biases formed? So it has a lot to do with our culture, our experiences, what is our heritage, what kind of social interactions we have had in the past, and what kind of social interaction that we are used to, our history, not like the history of United States or history of a particular country, but our history in terms of, how we were raised, what are the different kinds of exposures that we have gone through, and what is in fact making our history, like our story. And also our beliefs. What are our beliefs? And as you can see by this very mixture blend of things that I have presented over here, you can see how biases can be complicated, because some biases can be cultural, some can be experiential, some can be, due to our social interactions. Some of them has to do with how we were raised, and some can be based on our beliefs. So again, biases are complicated, and that's why it is complicated to decipher it. But we will make an attempt to do that in this session. Now, there are 2 kinds of biases. One is implicit bias, and one is explicit bias. Explicit bias is very simple, because what we can do is explicit bias. We can say, I don't like broccoli. We are not afraid to say it. I don't like this color, or I don't like this dress. Or sometimes, when we are in our intimate settings, We are not afraid to say, I don't like this XYZ person, or I don't like this this particular social group or whatever. So we can make it more explicit. So again, those biases are also there, and we say it, but we also have to consider how we say it when we are expressing those biases, because again, that needs to exercise some level of emotional intelligence in terms of, you know, how we come across. So it's not just implicit bias, but we also have explicit bias. And the reason I had included in this presentation is for the sake of completion. So it's not just implicit bias, they're explicit bias. But when we express those bias, first of all, you know, if there is a need to express, we express it, but we need to make sure that we are not hurting anybody by expressing those bias. And those biases are our explicit bias. And sometimes the implicit bias, it comes to the explicit bias bucket, and we say it, like we say it out loud, so we know it and other people know it. So again, we need to exercise good level of emotional intelligence, which is also known as EQ, because these days it's not just the IQ that matters, the intelligence quotient, but also our emotional intelligence. There is a CQ, which is cultural intelligence. There is a GQ, which is gender intelligence. So a lot of different kinds of quotients that we need to be aware of, especially if we are living in a diverse environment. So explicit bias. Now let's turn to implicit bias. So implicit bias is something which we are not aware of. That is implicit. Explicit is something we are aware of and we know about it and we talk about it. But implicit is something we are not aware of. And it is not intended, or it's not planned, or it's not consciously done. It's sitting in our unconscious, at the subconscious level. Now, one way to recognize these biases, and that can help us recognize these implicit bias, is by recognizing that how these biases, they operate at our subconscious level. First of all, we have to recognize that these biases are at the subconscious level. So they operate at the subconscious level. The next point is that it runs contrary to our conscious belief. Now, what do I mean by that? Our conscious belief is that, you know, I'm not a racist. People say it all the time. But unconsciously or subconsciously, there are times where their unconscious bias towards race comes into play. So we have to be careful. So it works against, if we are saying, you know, we are not racist, or, you know, we are not prejudiced against a specific immigrant group, or we are not, you know, prejudiced against a particular kind of faith. I mean, we say those things, and that is our conscious belief. But then at the subconscious level, we might be vulnerable to those types of biases that we are not even aware of. So again, the unconscious bias or implicit bias, it runs against, or it works against our conscious belief. So we really need to kind of sit back and take a look at our biases and see how we truly understand these biases, and is that the case, that we are not biased for these things. So this will be the technique that we will talk about, that we can talk about in my implementation, or how do you minimize these biases. Now, the third point is very important. Triggered through automatic and rapid mental association. So how does that work? So for example, let me just give you some activity over here. So think of, if you can close your eyes, and think of yourself sitting in a restaurant, and you are giving it for your food. So you're giving an order to a server. And that is the imagery that I would like to draw. So think of it sitting in a restaurant, giving an order to a server. Okay, open your eyes. Now let me ask you, what did you see? Or what did the server look like? And if you want, you can unmute yourself.
I thought about my favorite Chinese restaurant.
Okay.
So I pictured a particular woman that would usually serve me. So she's maybe in her 40s, Chinese,
Okay.
very nice, very quiet.
Right.
That's what I pictured.
Okay, very good. Thank you. What about you, Candace?
You know, I don't know where this came from, but I saw a young man, Caucasian, white shirt, smiling, friendly, and taking my order.
Very good. Very good. What about you, Lennon?
I thought of someone from a Latino and friendly, respectful.
Okay.
Specific, no more details.
Okay. I mean, that's fine. You just need to, share the major pointers. What about you, Karishma?
I saw a woman probably in her mid-20s, early 30s, kind of wearing like the waist apron and with kind of a notepad in her hand taking my order.
Okay, very good. Now, let me give you another scenario. The other scenario is that you are taking a flight, you are walking into a plane, and the captain comes out of the cockpit and the captain greets you. So that is the other scenario that you have. Now, tell me about that experience. Lennon, yeah, go ahead.
I would say, because of my experience traveling, usually it's male, white, tall.
Okay, that is your imagery. Okay, very good. I'm going to take one more. So anybody would like to go? Candace or Linda? Yeah, Linda, go ahead.
I agree with Lennon. That's pretty much what I pictured was a white male, fairly tall, maybe good looking.
Okay, all right. Let me give you another scenario, okay? Scenario number 3. You're having dinner at a restaurant and a couple is, they're celebrating their anniversary and it is a happy occasion. So they shared their anniversary cake with you. So I'm going to ask you, what was that interaction like?
You know, in my imagery, I might think they were a little crazy. I just did not grow up where I would have been comfortable with that. So that definitely takes me to my heritage, I think.
Right.
And my parents would have been, oh no, we, that's fine. You just, take it home to your neighbors or something, and I wouldn't have wanted to hurt their feelings. I really wouldn't, but it would have been really hard for me to get into it.
Good. So what did the couple look like? Imagery.
I don't know. I guess I can tell they're probably well matched. I would think that they are at ease with each other.
Okay.
That they're agreeable to doing this. That the man isn't saying to her, for instance, "Oh, honey, why are you pushing that on her?" or anything. None of that's going on. I'm not seeing that.
No. Okay. All right. Very good. One more, Linda, if you would like to share.
I pictured kind of like just a jolly old couple. I don't know. I kind of pictured like my grandparents when they were still alive. I don't know.
Very good. Okay.
And I don't know. I kind of got more like a family vibe. I think I agree with Candace, though. I might be a little uncomfortable in that situation. I'd be like, Oh, thank you. I don't I wouldn't know how to accept.
Thank you, but no thanks. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So these were some of the imageries, right? So coming back to the third point of implicit bias over here, it says triggers through automatic and rapid mental association. So the imagery that you all got based on the scenarios that I had presented, you had your own mental association. Like I didn't tell you that, the pilot is, the captain is white, tall. I mean, nobody gave you that information. That information is coming from you based on your experiences, based on your exposure, right? Because some people, they've always seen the captain to be white. So when you ask them to imagine, then that is what their imagination is going to have. Some people, they look at couples and they see a heterogeneous couple. So how many of us thought of a gay couple celebrating their anniversary? So again, that is the imagery that comes to us based on, as I stated before, our culture, our heritage, our experiences, our history, our exposure. So the more exposure we have, the more imageries we will have. And the more imageries we will have, the more we are not shocked, or the learning curve becomes quite flat. So I'm going to get in more in detail. But the point over here that I'm trying to make is that we have all these mental associations that we work with. And when we work with these mental associations, like, first of all, if I come and say, and if you see me physically, I say, I'm Nadia Merchant. My name. That's the number one association that people get. And it's not happening at the conscious level. It's happening at the unconscious level. Now, again, the way that I look. So, I'm from India. So again, that, and you might have some exposure or some associations about India. My friend is Indian and, she did something bad to me, or she did something good to me, So again, what I'm trying to say is all these associations, they kick in and they form an imagery. You are talking to that person, but you already have an imagery about that person. And that is what is happening when it's all happening at the subconscious level. So now when you're talking to that person, and I'm going to make this more clear. And again, this is more like, we are going to push some envelopes over here, because there would be things that, you might agree, you might not agree, you might not be open to that idea, but, we're going to explore it anyways. And that will be like your food for thought. And when you go, you will be able to think through it. So this is what is happening. So you're drawing all these associations when you are interacting with anybody. This is what is happening. You're drawing all these associations. And once you're drawing all these associations, it builds like a little bit of an image in terms of how you are going to be interacting with that person. So that is the imagery. And based on that imagery, your behavior is going to come out. And this is all happening at the subconscious level. So you have made an image, and based on that image, you saw me, you heard my name, and everything was, everything is there in front of you. And now there is some subconscious data that is coming through within your head. And based on all that information, you are interacting with me. So that's how your interaction is taking shape. So let's move to another slide. Is everybody with me so far? So you have already added some filters when you're interacting with that person, based on how I look, how I talk, what my name is, and there could be other associations as well that has added to your subconscious repository. And based on all that, and this is all happening subconsciously, so you can imagine that it's happening very fast. It's very quick, because at the conscious level, things happen slowly. At the subconscious level, things happen very fast. Hey, Dorothy.
Hello, how are you? Can you hear me?
Good, good. Yes, thank you for joining us. I thought we lost you, but thank you for coming back.
Yes, I've been trying to too. Sorry, I'm
really?
late.
No worries. So pretty soon I'll just summarize this and you'll be able to catch up. So feel free to add any comments or any feedback. So that's what is happening. So when we see a person, we have that person in front of us, but then we have our own subconscious data that is housed in our subconscious, and that comes out during our interaction. And when we interact with that person, it affects our behavior. So that is what I meant by mental association that we make at a subconscious level. So it is happening at the subconscious level. And then the behavior is the outcome of that conscious and the subconscious interaction, the data that we have within ourselves, and then that interaction is the outcome of that, all that data that we have. So let's go ahead and explore this a little bit further. So this is what is happening. It's triggered through automatic and rapid mental association. So that is what is happening at the subconscious level. I'm going to skip through that. Now, to make things more complicated, biases can be at many different levels. So they are not just at a person level. You have age biases, development, all these things that I've listed over here and more. So again, you are making associations, and those are the filters, and those are in a sense, biases, because you are adding your own associations, your own filter to that interaction. And now you add all these layers of other interactions or other levels of biases that could be part of that interaction. So, somebody is wearing something different, and, and then you associate that different clothing to another country or to another person, which you didn't have a good interaction with. So again, subconsciously that data is coming through, and then your behavior is going to reflect that. Or you might have a good interaction with that type of a clothing. So again, that is with the country and the national origin, and then you add the gender to it. So you see how complicated this is becoming in terms of the interaction, because you're getting all that data and subconsciously, and then that is playing a role in gearing up your behavior. So this is all is happening at a subconscious level. And at the conscious level, you are interacting with that person, but that is playing a role in how you are going to behave with that person. Because as humans, we have this tendency of fight or flight, right? So that is also going to be part, your basic instinct, the human instincts, our human instincts, that is also going to play into this picture. And it's all a big, complex mixture of things. And now you need to figure out how am I going to behave with this person? So this is what is happening. And then if we are not aware of these biases, the implicit as to what is going on inside, now you know what is going on inside. So you're going to watch it, right? If you had a bad experience with the person that you're interacting with, the country that this person is from, or the race this person has, you're going to watch it and you're going to say, I'm not going to let this get in the way of my behavior. I'm not going to judge this person because I had something, happening to me with this other person had the same background and so on. So now you're going to come at the conscious level and you're going to be more mature about it. You're going to exercise, and that is called, you're going to exercise your EQ, your emotional intelligence, as to how to manage your emotions. All right. So far everybody's with me? Okay, great. So this was my imagine little exercise that we did. Now that we know that all these things are important for us to notice, and all these things are important for us to control from our end, why is it important? That is the big question. Why are we trying to learn this implicit bias? And since this is a business series, we can also talk about this at the societal level, but we are going to talk about it today from a business standpoint. There are many examples of biases, and in the interest of time, I will just relate those to you. There's another example that I had for this presentation. This article was published in Huffington Post. It was about a person named Jose Zamaro, and he had applied for a job. And in his resume, on his resume, his name was Jose. So he put his name, Jose, and he wasn't getting any reply. And he decided to just do a little bit of an experiment and drop the S. And instead of Jose, now he becomes Joe Zamaro. And as soon as he did that, he started getting replies and interviews, and ultimately landed a position. So again, those are some of the examples that we have in terms of biases. Now, why is that important in terms of for a small business? It is important because biases, they affect who we hire. So if we have our biases, then that is going to affect who we hire, who we give promotion to, who are our customers, how profitable our business is. Because if we have biases, then biases are basically limitations that we are putting on ourselves. So if we have limitations, then yes, our profits are going to be limited. And even the culture of the organization, it's not going to be open and forthcoming and very hospitable. So again, those limits can also affect the culture in terms of how employees, they interact with one another, and how the business and the employees, they interact with the customer. And the list can go on and on and on. So again, all these things, biases, it can have a negative impact on whatever it is that we are trying to do at the personal level. And if we look at it from a business level, then yeah, from a business level also, it can have not such a favorable effect. So it's very important to contain those biases. Now, explicit bias, we know that if somebody likes broccoli, we're not gonna, say in front of them that, I don't like broccoli. We're going to respect their wishes, and, they're crazy about broccolis and they crave about broccolis. So we're not going to be so silly and say to them that, yeah, I just hate broccoli. That is not good EQ. So that is, so we're going to exercise some EQ at the conscious level. But then at the subconscious level, now that we know how these things play into our behavior, we're going to try and see how we can contain them at the conscious level. So let's look at some strategies in terms of how we can do that. So this is more like, I have labeled it as a work in progress. So again, we all have this tendency of boxing people in. Like, we and these days, we this is becoming part of our vocabulary, right, left, center, race, some of the race terms, white, black, brown, yellow, gender, faith, immigrant, country. These are all labels. There is no harm in getting to understand, what the background is for our own richness, but to label, and then finally, once we label and then we associate that person with that label out of our own filters that we have at a subconscious level, that can restrict our progress. So again, just seeing a person openly as to what they are and what they are looking for and what is your role and how you can maximize the interaction can allow us to minimize on the boxing. We are going to box people in. So we're not going to do that. So if we stop doing that, then we have opened up a lot more avenues in terms of to explore and to discover and to enrich ourselves. And this will allow us to think more openly. So then we will have a rich imagery. So, if I say, Yeah, let's just go ahead and imagine, a governor getting sworn in. Again, what imagery comes to mind? So again, our imagery will be rich. So it could be a female governor, it could be a male governor, it could be an African American female governor. So again, you see how we are enriching the way that we are imagining things. And once we start enriching our imagination, then we will have a lot more things that we can work with, and we have a lot more exposure. So once we have a lot more exposure, then you're like, yeah, been there, done that, so it's nothing new to me, and I can handle it. So you'll have a much more richer imagery, which will allow you to make your behavior more flexible and more personable, and the outcome will be more of a pleasant outcome. The experience will be more pleasant. Going back to the third one over here, allow for inclusiveness. Now, sometimes, at times in our behavior, we have a certain belief system, and we try to impose that belief system on whoever it is that, we are interacting with. And again, if we are more inclusive in terms of, especially in a business environment, when we are talking to a customer, it's the customer who is defining the discussion, not us as the server, because we are serving the customer. So if we are serving the customer, and if we are trying to sell them something in a way which is an imposition, then that is known as a hard sell. And nobody likes to, like you say, rubbing it in, nobody likes that. So if we do a soft sell, which means that we listen to the customer, we understand where they are coming from, and then we try to serve them to what their needs are, then that is going to be a more inclusive way of handling a customer or a person or whoever it is that we are interacting with. And the last one that I want to talk about is you start with an A. So whoever we are interacting with, doesn't matter whoever we are interacting with, we give them a grade of A. So if I'm interacting with Candace, you got an A. That is how I'm going to interact with you. I'm going to be in the best of my behavior, A. Now, if Candace is interacting with me, she's going to give me an A, let's say. And then if I do something that is going to, push her buttons, then my A is going to become a B and a C and a D and then maybe an F. But I'm going to start with an A. So that is what the logic is, that you give them, whoever it is that you're interacting with, you give them benefit of the doubt. Now, I had this experience when I was going into downtown Atlanta, and I was parking, and I had somebody approach me and say hi to me. And, as a custom, I say hi to everybody. I acknowledge everybody. Even when I go to the park to walk, I don't care who they are. Hey, how are you doing? Good morning. So same thing, I said, hey, how are you doing? And that person started saying that, yeah, nobody is willing to talk to me, and I'm so glad that you acknowledged me and you said hi to me. And I said, why not? You're a person, I'm a person, and it's good to acknowledge each other. And then what happened, that person asked me for some money, and it was downtown Atlanta, early in the morning, nobody was there. Now what's going to happen? My defenses are going to come up, and it's fight or flight, right? So I cannot, physically speaking, that other person was, had more strength. So I'm going to do a flight over here. I'm not going to fight. So my approach was a flight. So I pretty much just, left the conversation, and I just minded my own business. So I'm just giving this example. So now that particular person, I've already got my defenses up with that particular person. But now sometimes we also have the tendency of carrying that sentiment to another person. So now if I'm in downtown Atlanta and I have the interaction with this person, what am I going to do? Am I going to say hi to that person? Okay, that's where the test comes in. So the point is that yes, I should say hi to that person, because I don't want to carry that baggage. Again, I want to wipe my slate clean, and I want to give that person an A again. Doesn't matter I had that experience with that kind of description, that person fits that description, but yet I'm going to start with an A. I'm going to give it benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to carry any baggages with me. And to do that, it requires some level of practice and some level of seasoning, self-seasoning to do that, because it's not easy to do that, because our guards are always up based on that experience. So that person will get an A, and I'll start my interaction. Hey, how are you doing? Good morning, nice morning, whatever. I don't like to be too chatty, but just little chatty. Good morning. And then if that person doesn't do what was done in the past, then my subconscious bias or unconscious bias, there is a little bit of a modification to that. So I'm not going to rate everybody with that profile the same way. So that person, I had a good interaction. The other person, I did not have a good interaction. So now I'm going to come to a level where I'm going to have like very sophisticated repository of my database where each person will have their own interaction. So in that way, I'm not judging another person based on my previous interaction. So I'm starting fresh. And in this particular interaction, I had a positive interaction. So that kind of gave me an encouragement and validated my theory that not everybody is the same. So that level of complex emotional practice and exercise, it needs time. But once we all are aware of it, then now we have a chance to practice it. So always start with an A, benefit of the doubt, try to learn what their needs are if we are serving them, and then make sure that we are not being judgmental and we end up with a positive interaction. And if that is what it ends up being, then we won't be afraid of each other, that trust factor will build. And with no hesitation, I can call Miss Stokes, or I can call Linda, or and say, hey Linda, I'm going out, can you please watch over my house, or whatever. So that trust factor can be built. And same thing applies with businesses, that trust factor will be built if we have that positive interaction. The customers will trust us. And there is a difference between loyalty and just using the brand loyalty is that even if they have to pay more, and even your brand could be a little bit lesser than what is in the market, they will still come to you because of the experience that you give them. And that happens because they trust you. They know that you've got their backs. And that is what we need to do. And when we exercise this implicit bias, getting into the subconscious level, taking a step back, and if we implement these strategies, then hopefully we will end up being coming out with a positive interaction and a much better understanding of ourselves, and also other people who work around us, who we interact on a daily basis. With that, I will go ahead and end the presentation here. Any questions, any comments?
I just wanted to say I really appreciate that last part in particular where you said to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, start with an A. I think that's a good way to visualize that, especially at the library. We have a lot of repeat customers. Occasionally we have a difficult customer, and I think for myself, really focusing in on that, honing in on that kind of mindset will help greatly. Because I want to make sure everyone's having a good experience, even if I haven't had, the most positive interaction with a person in the past. I do try to outwardly be as kind and as nice to them as anyone else that comes through. I think it's the internal dialogue in my head, like trying to make sure I kind of wipe that out of my head, and kind of try to hope for the best instead of focusing on what's happened in the past. So I really appreciate that point.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I'll just open it up to other participants. And if you would like to share some of your thoughts, I would appreciate that. Yes, Candace?
Well, I really felt that these last general talking points were really very good. And I especially liked where you said, think openly, and that only comes with exposure. And I think that is so true. And we do hold ourselves back. We just do. I also liked that when you talked about allow for inclusiveness, you pinpointed listen. And I think that is huge.
Yes.
We're so busy thinking ahead to what we're going to say next that we don't always listen. And then the starting with the A, I liked what you said about to give everybody that A, and this takes practice. And I think that is really true, because you do come in there with things planted, and it is hard. You do need to practice. And then I felt the one other thing that you had mentioned was that biases really are putting limitations on ourselves. And I think, how much fuller our lives could be without many of these biases, for sure.
Exactly. Like the people that you can interact with, people that you can learn about. I mean, places that you can go. I mean, if we all drop those biases, I think there is a lot to be discovered. So thank you so much for that, Candace. I think those were some very good pointers. Anybody else? Dorothy, I wasn't able to see your first name. That's why I said Miss Stokes, but now I can see it. Would you like to share your thoughts? I know you came in a little bit late, but I hope that you were able to get some grasp of it. And if not, then I'll be more than happy to stay after the session and we can talk. But would you like to say something at this time? Okay, maybe we will come back to her then. What about Lennon and Karishma? Oh, Dorothy, here you are. Okay. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I thought you could hear me. I'm sorry.
You're good.
I actually thought you did a very good job. I was loving the fact that you used the example of Pretty Woman to show it. And I was understanding everything you said. We live it every day, so it was very informative. I think you gave some helpful tips. So I was appreciative for what I caught, because I didn't catch the whole session.
Well, we appreciate your feedback. Thank you so much.
I thought it was great.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. Yes. What about you, Lennon?
I just wanted to say that as a customer service, being in front of the line, sometimes we tend to get carried away with the previous experience that we had with a particular customer.
Right.
And when you say give the customer an A, it reminded me of a principal that used to say every day in the morning, it's a brand new day. So even if you misbehaved the day before, or even if you did something bad the day before, to me, that principal was saying, okay, I already forgot what you did, and we're starting anew.
Right.
even though you're the same person. So I think that maybe in businesses, maybe that's how we can think of in relationship with our customers, even if it's the same customer or if it's a different customer that looks like the previous customer who gave us a hard time or we had a bad experience with. We're starting anew. So we're starting with A and then we move on. Or maybe the same customer.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Very good. Very good takeaway. Karishma, would you like to share something? Your feedback?
Yeah, sure. I really like the Pretty Woman video. I feel like it's interesting how it's portrayed in media, that we see all of these like habits and tendencies, and then that kind of, we also take that kind of subconsciously, mentally, as we see this around us, and it's kind of, we're programmed in a certain way. And I think the point that you made about starting everybody with an A, it's like, don't judge a book by its cover, like give everybody a chance, give everybody a fighting chance to connect with you or for you to connect with them. So that point really resonated with me.
Right. Thank you for your feedback. And I think at the end of the day, we all are here, we have a life, and we all are doing our best. And if this is something that can make us better to get to that point, then why not? We can give it a try. Just incorporate some of the pointers and see if that creates a better experience for us and for the people that we are interacting with. So with that, I will give it back to Miriam, and if she would like to say something. And do you have any questions before we leave? Okay. So we had a nice, good group of people, not shy. I appreciate that. You all shared your thoughts, and I think that made the discussion more interactive and more richer. So, we all can learn from each other. So I appreciate that, and thank you for that. With that, I'll turn it over to Miriam. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. Well, I just want to thank everyone for attending. I know it was a small group, but I think we got a lot of valuable information that we can put to use in the real world, especially in these times. I think we're all learning, relearning. So thank you for everyone for attending. Thank you, Nadia, for the wonderful presentation, all of the great information. And I do just want to let you all know, we will be having another session with Nadia on October 15th, and that one is how to build cultural intelligence. It'll be at 11 a.m. So if you can please join us, please go to gwinnettpl.org. You can register through our calendar. And so we hope to see you again. Thank you. And we hope that you have a great day.